Well, that's genuinely what they think. They don't really like it.
And the tax loopholes, and the tax havens. Barclays already paying 1% tax.
Anyone want to feed biscuits to the greedy bankers? They're taking all our money, shutting down our services. Feed them biscuits, feed them biscuits. They can't get enough.
I'm involved in the Carnival Against the Cuts today. I'm from Lewisham Anti-Cuts Alliance and Lewisham People Before Profit, which together with various other campaign groups, especially the Libraries people, using today to attack the cuts, both local and national. This crisis was caused by the bankers, which is why today I'm outside of Barclays Bank, where the head of Barclays Bank has given himself an enormous salary or combination of salary and other benefits, amounting I think to about £6 million, whilst Barclays Bank have made absolutely massive profit and are paying virtually no corporation tax whatsoever. Far more taxes are paid as a percentage of income by people on low wages than by the wealthy in this country. Corporation tax is far less than it was under Thatcher.
Tory cuts, no thanks, sir. Nick and David love the bankers. We think they're a load of Tory tops, no ifs, no buts, no public sector cuts.
I'm really worried about the hundreds of jobs that are going now in nurses and health workers, doctors across London and across the country. I'm very worried about it. And I'm also worried about the privatisation of the NHS, which is going to happen with the new NHS bill, and the costs of that. And if that money wasn't being spent or wasted on this new legislation, we could use it to fund services and to prevent cuts. So that's what I'm trying to say.
What do you think it says about the government that they're just letting this happen and saying it's more alternative?
I think this is it's terrifying. It's dreadful. They don't have any mandate for it. Nobody voted for this. I think they're on very shaky ground, and I'm quite surprised that the Lib Dems are supporting it. I think the time has come for the Lib Dems to stand up and say, they must oppose these cuts. And, Labour Party has to come out very strongly against it as well. I think this government hasn't really got a huge majority, hasn't got a majority actually, so I think it is possible to fight these cuts and to fight these policies and to win.
1948, long live the welfare state, whether you're rich or you're poor, don't have to pay any more when you fall ill. NHS under threat, Tory plans are set, waiting lists will get worse, profit is lining their purse, unless we fight.
And standing up for the NHS to remain public.
So against privatisation?
Totally against it, I totally oppose it.
And what do you think it says about the government that they're just...
That we have no trust. They can't be trusted.
We're here to stop the privatisation of the National Health Service. Privatisation will mean companies like United Healthcare America will bid for contracts to run GP and NHS services, and in order to provide those services they will compete with other companies. There'll be a race to the bottom, and the only way you can achieve that is by cutting standards of healthcare and cutting the terms and conditions of employment of staff. So it's the patient and the end user who will suffer. It's still public money under the privatised system, but they will be making a profit from our taxes for providing a service which is currently, by and large, still provided directly by the state.
What did you think about the cuts on Thursday?
The cuts are an absolute disgrace. There's over 120 billion uncollected through tax evasion and tax avoidance. We know this because the PCS union, and they all, who among other public servants, organise the tax offices, have told the union that there's this amount of money annually, 120 billion, uncollected through tax avoidance and tax loopholes and so on. And effectively, the government's declared class war by the privatisation of health, the privatisation of education, breaking up housing benefit, selling off all of the services to the private sector, and we're not going to tolerate it.
The NHS will just become a logo, and any willing provider, anybody, including private companies, can provide NHS services and make huge profits. Now all those profits will be going out of the system and will be not available for services. So if we could get rid of the market, if we can prevent this bill and we don't have a market in healthcare, we will save something like £14 billion a year. That's how much is spent on just marketising the health, billing and legal costs and advertising and all that stuff. So if we could save £14 billion a year, we wouldn't have to have any cuts at all in NHS services. So there is a link between the cuts and this NHS bill that's going through. It's also going to affect your relationship with your local GP, because GPs will have to make the cuts. We're the ones that are going to be forced to not refer and not investigate patients and not prescribe things because we have to save money.
We will not pay, we will not pay, we will not pay the bankers' debt. The poorest, why should the poorest foot the bill? The poorest, why should the poorest foot the bill? The poorest, why should the poor, why should the poor, why should the poorest foot the bill? The NHS, we will defend the NHS. We will defend the NHS. Can I ask, like, what harm it does to post biscuits through a letterbox?
I'm not saying there's any harm, but obviously...
So you've come here to deal with something that isn't causing anyone any harm?
Well, it is, obviously, it's not your property if you're doing so.
I
hear what my colleagues say, but the interesting point is, and obviously we've been sent down by our team to come down, is that in relation to, if the bank calls us up, let's say for argument's sake on Monday morning, and says we've had to call in a cleaner and it's cost us an additional £10 or £15, and they decide that that's what it's cost, then ultimately that's criminal damage.
We will not pay, we will not pay the bankers' debt. The poorest, we will not pay the bankers' debt. We won't pay, we will not pay the bankers' debt. We won't pay, we will by force, we will by force, we will fight on against the crowd. We won't pay, we will not pay the bankers' debt. Join in. We will not pay the bankers' debt. We won't pay. We will not pay. We will not pay. We will not pay the bankers' debt. The poorest, join in. The poorest, why should the poorest tax and tax them more.
I'd just like to thank everyone who's come on what is a really good build-up. So we're going to have hundreds of thousands here in London on the 26th of March. We've got a Labour Council here that needs to decide if it's out on the marches with us, is it marching with us against the cuts, or is it just sitting in the council chamber doing the dirty work of the government? So we've got a message to Frankie, Steve Bullock and the rest of them, that we're not going to accept these cuts, that NUT members are already taking consideration of whether we're going to ballot for strike action to oppose cuts to services in Lewisham. To all public sector workers here, that following the 26th of March demo, we need to be pushing for national strike action to protect our pensions, to
protect our pension services and say to Brendan Barber that yes, we want a mass demo, and from that mass demo we want a one-day public sector strike, and to tell this government if they don't back off, we're going to keep taking action until they do.
We